series recently, really been the shining light for Gamtee, and Sky, a bit of a polarizing character there in the top lane, plays a lot of this Rumble, has seen sort of a lot of their success recently. Of course, against LGD, had some brilliant Rumble games, but yesterday his equalizers were either utter genius or not so great.
Yeah, he's kind of opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of his playstyle a lot, but the one thing he does like to do is use that teleport to great effect. So look for him to try and get down to the bottom side of the map, really impact the first couple of team fights, because that's what gets King going. Yeah,
it is. And we're going to hop into Champion Select very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, with Azir and Thresh being taken off the board by each team, and Casson are going to follow up. And pretty understandable bans here. The Azir ban coming out from King is interesting because that's a lot of respect to Xiaohu here, and we're not going to see sort of that standard Xerath-Azir matchup because both of these players play a lot of both of these champions.
Yeah, and I was going to say the other thing is Assassin plays Azir. So not willing to first pick it, doesn't want to take it into any of those blind matchups, really respecting Xiaohu. We see Janna actually being taken off the board as well. Don't want to give Liam one of those safe supports. I wouldn't be surprised if Thresh went next, just to force them onto different things, because we've seen that Sync Dream in the unorthodox support category generally comes out pretty ahead.
Oh yeah, and his Annie's fantastic. Of course, his Leona's been pretty good as well, being able to influence the map, and a massive focus here on Liam in the bottom side of the map by Gamtee. So making sure that sort of this bottom lane duo is uncomfortable, and I like the tactic. It's a little bit new, but Sky, he's going to have his Rumble banned away, but that's going to leave Nidalee open, and Sky insta-locks it.
Yeah, it certainly is. So that will potentially be the jungle. Nidalee coming through. We've seen it a lot on this patch. Insane clear time, so quick, and remains relatively healthy. So you don't have to go back after the fourth camp. You can stay out for a long time. So I like the Nidalee pickup. Very good scrappy jungle, actually underrated with tanky items. Very good poke based with those AP items coming through, but is a good in-your-face, I guess, damage threat as well with some tank items.
Oh yeah, and really able to counter jungle as well. If MLXG sort of has run of this early game, can set up shop in the enemy jungle and just be a nuisance. Let me though, he's going to get his hands on some power picks here in Aurelia, and Danger possibly is going to actually lock away that Jarvan.
Yeah, and that's a really good front line coming through from Gamtee here. They can put Wushin under a lot of pressure straight away through how heavy they can dive on the back line. Having someone lock someone up in that Cataclysm and Aurelia being able to come over the top means that they can both ignore a lot of the CC that will come out of King's lineup and get in the faces of the carries.
And Assassin now is going to be hovering over this Sivir for Wushin. He did pick that one up and had a great game. We were talking about the second game against OMG where King almost managed to pip them there at the end, but Wushin Sivir was looking good in that lane. And Lissandra, it was looked at here on the side of Gamtee, but King, they're going to take their turn and they're going to lock that one away. Sky probably going to play that in the top lane, but could be going to Assassin there in mid as well.
Yeah, it certainly could be. And that's the best thing about a couple of these picks that King have picked up. Very ambiguous team comp so far. You don't know whether it's a Nidalee top, we've seen it a little bit, or a Nidalee mid, even been seeing that a little bit.
Yep, that.
Yeah, so I guess leaving an ambiguous roster like this that has a lot of escape, a lot of hard engage, and some good poke means that you don't really know what they're going to throw at you. They can round it out in any way possible.
Yeah, and Xiaohu is going to lock away Leona here for Sync Dream. It does leave that Annie available, and I was actually expecting Sync Dream to possibly go for that one. His Annie was very good at making plays here for Gamtee in the early games and a lot of their victories, but Liam gonna hop back to another one of these sort of reactionary supports, more of a babysitter type support with that black shield on for Morgana here as well. Looking at that one, may not necessarily be locked in here as it is just a hover at this stage, but I wouldn't be surprised. It is a Liam sort of flavor champion.
And I was going to say, one of the interesting things is neither of these sides really play Gnar, but now it's being hovered in the top lane for Sky. So I actually think that this might even be one of the first times they've played Gnar all together. Gamtee is 0-3 with it, so they have taken it away. And I think this is the first time King have actually picked it up in the LPL. So interesting to see that they're willing to change things up for a game against Gamtee.
Yeah, and that does mean that it's going to be a Lissandra in that mid lane here as well, as we see King's lineup completely rounded out. And Xerath going to be looked at here by Xiaohu. One of his power picks there in mid. Even in their losing games, has managed to go really, really huge on that Xerath.
Yeah, but a bit of an unbalanced composition coming out of Gamtee now. They have some great poke out of their AD carry in mid lane, but a lot of hard engage, and that's not good news. Having a team that's caught in between against a team that is very dive heavy. King with the Gnar, with the Lissandra, even with the Nidalee being able to pounce in there on such a short cooldown, are going to look to run over the top. And something to note is King, when they play these 100% dive comps, look much better. They're very good at going forward, not fantastic at going backwards. So if they get ahead early, this could be completely their game. There's not much Gamtee can do against a snowballing King lineup.
Yeah, that's true. And King, they've been praised for their ability to have so much control in these team fights in the late game, even against the top teams in the LPL. That's where they've shined. That's where they've looked good. And now they've got the Frozen Tomb plus Gigantic Gnar plus Soul Shackles plus ridiculous amounts of damage. It's really, really scary.
Yeah, and they've got a couple of these champions that depend on their flashes like the Morgana to get in there. But when you give a Sivir ultimate to a team like that, it takes away that window of needing those important cooldowns because you can just get on top of people so much easily. So you've got something like a Jarvan and a Leona. They're very good when you're ahead. They're very good at going forward and forcing fights, but they don't stall the game out particularly well. So it's going to be a lot on the wave clear of Gamtee to really, I guess, if they do get in a position where they're equal or behind, let the Aurelia split push, clear some waves out. Don't fight a big brawly team fight because in that category, King definitely win.
Does that mean that Gamtee sort of have the onus on them in order to get ahead early? Is it going to be danger getting around this map on this Jarvan and affecting ganks early on in this game to get Gamtee ahead?
Yeah, it certainly looks like that. Double Trinity power spike is the one that you need to look for. Corki, Aurelia, if they can get early Trinity forces and force some things, they're in a good position.
Trinity forces and forcing things, I love it. But we are going to hop onto the Rift, ladies and gentlemen. And we are onto the Rift with King taking on Gamtee for our first match of day 2 of the LPL for week 5. King are going to be on our blue side and Gamtee on the red. No funny business seems to be unfolding thus far. We'll see whether there is going to be any grouping for some deep wards perhaps, but so far it looks like we're going to have standard laning. Is this sort of something that both teams are okay with?
Yeah, very interested in the standing lane. Standard lane. I thought King would invade. They have a terrific level 1. They've got the repetitive Q spams that come out of their top and middle lane. Nidalee just does ridiculous damage with that spear level 1. You throw a Morgana onto anything, and I just thought they had a much superior level 1 team fight. But going for standard lanes, nothing hasty coming through as Tails spots Lamb in the bottom lane. But yeah, I think that they will opt into a lane swap here on King's side. That if I saw the matchups, that's what I would be thinking straight away, trying to get Wushin away from the Corki until you have a few items. Corki does relatively well against Wushin, although if Wushin plays the lane well, can just push out.
Yeah, we'll see what they do. They are hanging around here. And as far as the top lane situation is concerned, I mean, both of these champions very good in lane swap situations, but that 1v1, Aurelia seems to have Gnar's number sometimes in these matchups.
Yeah, the sometimes is a funny part.
It's so confusing, the Gnar matchup.
If you play it perfectly, Aurelia has the matchup, but there's just so much room for error when you take a melee into a ranged matchup. So you're exactly right. Aurelia should win it, but we've definitely seen that is not the case all the time.
Yeah, we've seen all sorts of things come through. Of course, Lupa coming through with some counter picks for that Gnar and not having them work out, namely Kennen and Annie being his less successful top lane option. But we are actually going to have the Gromp start here. Tail managing to take all of the experience and going to come to lane at level 2. As Wushin just going to start utilizing that W in order to really push this lane out.
Yeah, and Sivir's kind of the one person I don't like taking level 2 on against, just because of the fact that she pushes so hard. They did a relatively good job of tail zoning them off there with Sync Dream, but Sivir just has so much pushing potential with that auto attack resets, with the 3 AoE auto attacks that come through. And nice harass actually coming through from Assassin. This is a tough matchup for Lissandra. Farms relatively well, but does need to be careful of the damage output that can come from Xerath.
Yeah, an Assassin very, very sort of knowledgeable of the range of that Q. And if he manages to utilize that for making sure he gets the splash out of the other end, it can have some decent range, but it takes a long time. As we do have an engage here on the bottom side. Oh, the flash already out from Wushin and the ignite ticking down. He's in a lot of trouble. Actually going to potentially go back very early on his tail. He's level 3 to Wushin's level 1.
Yeah, that is an absolutely huge creep wave. The only saving grace there was that Sync Dream took so much creep damage that he's a little bit low as well, but we'll be able to heal up with those potions. And now it's danger time for King's bottom lane. We mentioned that Wushin needed to be able to get ahead to help carry, but At this rate, if Tail can get a lead and Sync Dream is allowed to roam, that will play right into Gamtee's game plan.
Yeah, and it fits exactly their playstyle as well, as you mentioned. Danger coming through the enemy jungle here, has got a flag on that red buff, but you mentioned Nidalee's clear time, and that red buff already gone.
Yeah, Nidalee just flies through the jungle, is able to already have a shop over the top of Danger as well, who has played better on Lee Sin than probably other junglers. So surprised to see him take the Jarvan in this situation. But Nidalee in early little fights and skirmishes will definitely be able to take it to the Jarvan.
We can see Gamtee definitely having a good time in the bottom lane. You look at the top lane, however, very even for these two as the Frozen Path going to come through. There's a nice Glacial. Oh my goodness, Xiao who gets flashed on. MLXG, that stun not going to be enough, and a first blood here for King.
Yeah, and that just shows the strength of Nidalee. As soon as you hit one of those spears to get the Hunted passive down, you fly across the map and you're able to get in range for ganks so easy. Not to mention how well Assassin played that to start it off. Made it look like he was wave clearing with that Frozen Path and then able to go in for the stun. Overall, terrific early game play out of King.
Yeah, and Assassin has shown that he's definitely a rock for this King lineup, and now with a very good early start, has been playing from behind. Of course, Cool having some great games against King last night, but this time looking a whole lot better, and with a lead, my goodness.
Yeah, it certainly does. Interesting to note that Xiao, who actually took Cleanse into the mid lane there, and even with the Summoner spell, couldn't escape all the CC and damage that came through. So very nicely done by King. They've jumped out to nearly 1,000 gold lead this early in the game, and that is nothing to be scoffed at, especially granted how well Gamtee's bottom lane has gone.
Oh, most definitely. And Wushin doing a decent job here trying to play from so far back. Hasn't been back to base yet, so had that one potion to get him back from what was about 70 health there on the bottom side. And his use of these spell shields in that black shield and his E, of course, really, really on point in order to help him get back into this one. Only 9 CS behind.
Yeah,
oh, as they get engaged on, I eat my words, as Tail does so much damage. Sync Dream picks up the kill with an Eclipse, and Liam forced to try and farm now. Is this Morgana?
Yeah, he tried to chase through, but the creeps were there. Wasn't able to catch up to Tail, so a very nice, I guess, duo kill in the bottom lane there. Now getting even further aggressive. They're both level 5. Extremely strong at this point in the game. Tail needs to be careful, however.
Yeah, Tail very, very low on health, but we do have a scuffle here on the mid side of the map. Danger going so low as MLXG throwing out spear after spear. Assassin's found his way around here, but doesn't have any mana, and I'm unable to continue the pressure. That passive is going to help him if he needs to throw out some Qs, though, in the mid lane.
Yeah, and before the fight in the bottom lane broke out, I wanted to point out the synergy between King's jungle and mid. They went back and used all of their money pretty much from that first blood to pick up wards. There was a couple of green wards picked up in the jungle, as well as a pink ward that was placed into that brush in the river, as well as a pink ward on the mid laner. So making sure that, yes, they get first blood, but that's not where it stops. They need vision control so they can keep taking it to the Xerath.
Yeah, and Sky actually getting aggressed on so hard in the top side of the map. Let me waiting for that Blade Surge. Equilibrium Strike to come through. A few more auto attacks are going to be all he needs, but no, doesn't dive too deep, and Sky's going to be okay. Does have the CS advantage. And wow, that was so close by this Gnar.
Yeah, it certainly was. He needs to be careful. However, Danger coming in to try and clean it up is backing away from the turret. Nice deep ward there, so he'll be safe. But great map movements coming through from Gamtee, looking to push the advantage that was gained from Let Me in the top lane.
Yeah, and you were mentioning the wards picked up by King paying off yet again here, even on the top side of the map, as Sync Dream surprisingly going to be roaming this map, getting deep vision down. They want to know where that kitty is.
Yeah, they're the two most important wards in the game, pre maybe 15, 16 minutes. Being able to get the Wraith Camp as well as the double golems warded up just means that you know where the Nidalee is at all times. And she does so much damage without items due to that passive that if you don't know where she is, she turns fights so quickly.
And Tail actually trying to proc that spell shield from Wushin here on the bottom side of the map. Has hit level 6, so has the rockets now as well on the hunt. Few creeps away here for Wushin.
And the double spell shield not even keeping Wushin safe, just with all of the magic damage that comes out of Corki, able to take the harass continually to him.
Yeah, is Sky going to get the hyper proc, but Still not exactly helping him survive in this lane here. Of course, Let Me doing a great job harassing this Gnar down. Oh, Wushin gets caught by another one here, and brilliant use of the spell to keep him safe. But Sky, he's coming in. The answering teleport a little bit later here from Let Me. Sync Dream going low. Wushin forced to back out of this fight as Let Me's found his way in here as well. Sky uses the Gnar onto Let Me only and misses the wallop. And that is going to spell King's retreat here, as neither teleport going to net them any gains.
Yeah, Sky teleported in there very early, but the call to run up river and the, I guess, backup that was coming through from Xiaohu in danger kept the bottom lane safe. In the end, it was almost like he ultimated just because he had wasted a cooldown to get into the bottom lane. Nothing used on the side of Gamtee, so definitely getting the better of that, I guess, scuffle in the bottom lane.
Yeah, but I guess it does save the members of King who were getting aggressed on there on that bottom side. MLXG going to take his red buff here as well. And the game extraordinarily even here. That first blood helping out as far as getting some extra money. 1,000 gold in the lead are King. And that comes down to farm here because Assassin's doing fantastically in the mid lane. And in the top lane, Sky, although it hasn't looked great for him as far as these trades have been going, still managing to farm like a beast.
Yeah, he's still able to keep up on CS, and that is a ranged advantage as we see some action in the bottom lane.
Yeah, that's actually the Cataclysm coming down, and that was a gank that MLXG didn't want to go into. Sync Dream now trying to follow up on that one, and my goodness, Assassin, meanwhile, ganks the top lane.
Yeah, so in the top lane, able to roam up there, take Aurelia out. That will get Gnar a little bit further ahead, get some damage done on the turret, but what it will mean is Dragon will go over to Gamtee. So overall, a 1-for-1 trade, but Gamtee able to grab an early objective.
Yeah, and those 6% stats going to be working out for them as well, so not going to show in the gold, which hasn't changed here after that trade of kills.
Ooh, if Sky can pick up a turret in the top lane, this might actually be worth it for King. They scale extremely well with their first back on the items, and they're starting to come through. So probably give that one in favor of King just for the fact that they were able to get the gold. On the other side, however, if you have Trinity Force users, that 6% stats doesn't mean as much until you get the second item.
Yeah, that's true, because of course Trinity Force has sort of a bevy of low numbers of statistics, and you're not really going to be helping it.
Yeah, it's more about the movement speed, the Sheen procs that come through, all the, I guess, passive that the Trinity Force gives you, not the raw statistics. Whereas something like an Infinity Edge that's going to be picked up by a Sivir, or all that raw AP that will come out of a Lissandra, that's what really benefits the first Dragon.
So, is still good from Gamtee to deny that one away, but you're right, it's not going to put King too far behind here as they do take out that top lane turret, extend that gold lead a little bit more, and King now invading towards this top side of the map. Assassin has just felt free to roam this whole game. Oh, Glacial Path's going to come through. Let Me! He's going to get ulted up. MLXG with the takedown. And that is going to net them a kill and possibly an inner turret.
Yeah, it certainly is. Nidalee Heal can't be underestimated as a pushing tool. That attack speed that comes out just means that they're able to burn through turrets. And once again, we see the damage that comes out of this Nidalee jungle. Once the Hunted passive is on, that takedown rips through people.
Oh my goodness, and 3 members of Gamtee unable to take down this outer turret in the mid lane. We are going to have backs coming through very quickly. Another wave is going to crash into that turret, and Tail going to try and take the bottom out of it. That inner turret being down in the top side of the map, very, very dangerous, especially considering how much weaker Baron is now, and they're not going to have the control of the map on that top side.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned Baron, and another one of Nidalee's strengths is her neutral objective control. So a realistic possibility with the team comp they've put together. Of course, that Hyper does a lot of damage to Baron as well in mini-Gnar form. So look to see whether King, if that's the tactic, whether they want to control the top side of the map, maybe cede a little bit of control bottom and mid, but really start opening up the top red side jungle.
And we have seen these LPL teams going for very early Baron control now that he has been nerfed just a little bit on the 5.2 patch. Of course, very used to 4.2. And now we have moved on. So a lot of these teams now adjusting, now changing their play styles as King focusing on this outer turret in the bottom side. You can see 4 members strong down here. Tail gonna have to be very careful. And King are just rotating as a unit, very OMG-esque and destroying structures.
That was beautiful from Sky, recognizing that at this point, Let Me has no items. He's got a Phage. He cannot match the rotations that are coming through, and you can't go near a Gnar because he's a long-range champion that can take up the minion wave and continually hit the turret. So very good in these mini siege scenarios. So Brilliant rotation around the map. No teleport was up, and they're able to pick up another free objective. They're not going to lose anything here. Rotating Lissandra into the top lane to be able to pick up that minion wave, keeping the tanky Gnar in the longer mid lane because he's less susceptible to ganks. Really nice map movement coming through from King.
Yeah, we've spoken about King's sort of ability to play strategically around this map. Sometimes they can get a little bit outclassed as far as the mechanical play, sort of those matchups in the lanes respectively, but strategically they're beautiful. As Danger may have got caught out here just a little bit, has to flag and drag away the longest auto attack of all time coming through from Layem. As Sky is looking to start something up. Ooh. Danger's going to flash.
Yeah, respecting the Gnar there with the flash. Not up on Sky, probably a little bit preemptive, but trying to preserve his life. And that's how far on the back foot Gamtee is. They got some deep wards, able to pick up a turret, which is good, but still very, very nervous around this King lineup.
And it's actually going to be Let Me taking away that red buff here as well. They do not want to let MLXG get into their jungle and start stealing away their buffs. So they want to take them as soon as they possibly can. And Danger, he couldn't. He was way too low. Plus, he had a blue buff to get as well.
Yeah, and look at how well they're controlling King, controlling the vision of their red side jungle. 2 wards were placed by Gamtee, 1 swept out, 1 pink warded straight away. They're recognizing exactly what Gamtee are trying to do, trying to get this Corki into a nice mid-game area now that he's picked up that Trinity Force. And King, proper movements around the map to try and block that.
It is actually beautiful what King are doing as far as reacting to Sync Dream's roams here as well. I didn't get to mention it, but as soon as Sync Dream managed to get that sort of deep roam into the red side jungle, as soon as he came back, pings coming out from King at exactly where he'd warded in that jungle so that they could sweep them out so they knew exactly where he was going. And this is just sort of beautiful forward thinking coming through from King, knowing where that vision is and how to take control of it.
Yeah, and understanding Sync Dream as a support player. What he aims to do, he aims to get good vision and then roam around the map and really try and affect the mid lane. And they've completely nullified Leona's earliest power spike by really good vision control and not letting him get in behind Assassin's Lissandra.
Yeah, and it does show that these two teams have faced off against each other a few times. Of course, both coming through from that LSPL. Newer teams, yes, but they have played through a whole tournament together.
Yeah, certainly have. And now it looks like they're collapsing onto Sky into this top lane. He's nearly level 11, so they need to be careful. He's reasonably tanky. And whilst they've sent 3 members up there to try and get the tankiest member on the map, the response, 4 members bottom lane trying to siege up this outer turret.
And siege is a thing that they can definitely do. Is so much poke to come in onto Tail. Forced to use that heal. He's going to hang on to the flash for now, but it's very scary if King gets one of these picks.
Yeah, and MLXG is that far ahead. He's elected for a greedy Archangels to come through probably as his next item. A tier is a very risky pickup on a jungler. We don't see it too often just because it takes a little bit longer to scale into the mid game, but with how he's gone in the early game, confident enough to go for a scaling late game item on what should be an early game part of the map. So got to really respect how MLXG is playing the early game on Nidalee.
Yeah, and this is the second time that we've seen a Nidalee in the jungle going for that Seraph's Embrace. And Dandy, it didn't work out very well for him in their matchup.
Yeah, and generally you see them, I guess, go for that upgraded Magus enchant and then try and get a defensive item. Something like a Frozen Heart, maybe if they're against a lot of AP. Maybe even a Spirit Visage, just because of the fact that you don't want to get blown up. A lot of base damage on those spears, given the distance it travels, and then the Cougar form has fantastic base damage. So don't really need it, but really going for this longer range, poke-based Nidalee and trying to get as much done underneath turrets as possible.
Oh, Lemmy's trying to teleport in to take this dragon, but MLXG, he's just going to pounce out and get out of here immediately. Look at the disengaged potential coming through from King, and they may have made it to safety after taking a cheeky dragon right under the noses of Gamtee.
Yeah, and once again, Gamtee having to use a lot to not gain anything at all. King able to just get over the back of the wall, actually making a pretty smart rotation into the mid lane as well to try and put some pressure over there. And Assassin needs to be careful.
Oh, Xiaohu, the flash going to be used to get out of the last proc of that ultimate. Very close there from Assassin. Danger time for this mid laner.
Yeah, it certainly was. Unfortunately, Danger not in range of that one.
Oh, that was a good joke.
Thank you.
10 out of 10.
Coming through, so double Trinity Force now picked up. They're in a position where they've got 2 Sight Stones as well. So Gamtee at this point, not that far behind, about 3,000 gold. They're looking to get vision and force fights because right now they're against a team that's gone for an Archangel's, not going to really scale up, and the discrepancy between AD carries. Zerka Greaves and Pickaxe BF versus a completed Trinity for Sork Boots definitely is in Tail's favor. So if they can group up as a unit, start sieging with this Corki and Xerath, there is a chance they can get some of the advantage back in this game.
Yeah, and I think they probably wanted to, take that spike to their advantage during that last Dragon fight, but it was fantastic from King to notice that was going to happen as the Wallop to come through on a couple of members here, but Sky taking so much damage as Mega Gnar. They don't want to dive this turret too much. That is the biggest black shield I've ever seen in my entire life. As Sky is able to clear out this minion wave. Liam now here to lend a hand. MLXG waiting off the backside. But Tail has a lot of poke with those rockets.
Yeah, he certainly doesn't. They still have to respect it. I guess throwing 4 members into the top lane in response. Now all 5 members act towards there, so Gamtee's back away. Don't want to force anything too hard, and I really think they're not using this Corki to great effect at the moment. They've left him now up there solo. He probably is strong enough to solo out most members on the map, but just not able to pick up any mid-game objectives. They might grab 1 turret off this, but the window's slowly starting to close. We mentioned it was a BF and a pickaxe. Now the Infinity Edge is done. Yeah,
Infinity Edge and a Brawler's Glove there as well as MLX3 wants to steal away this blue buff. Oh, he doesn't manage to. His danger even dodges the spear. Beautiful play. And I was going to talk about King being able to rotate around while they sort of concede that top outer turret and pick up other things around the map, but unable to capitalize just there.
Yeah, not able to grab that one as we have actually Sky going aggressive.
Super aggressive onto Tail. The hype is going to proc. Sky is going to transform here, and Tail going to wisely back away from the Mega Gnar. Sync Dream's around here. Solar Flare's going to find the slow. There's the Zenith Blade to land as well. So much damage from that Phosphorus Bomb as Sky just pegs them away. The big one, and Tail picks up the kill. Some over-aggression from King.
Yeah, Sky just not respecting the damage that comes out of Trinity Force Corki. He's pumping it out at this point. Probably the strongest he's going to be all game until he can really get going with maybe 2-3 more items. So a big miscalculation coming out of the Gnar in the top lane. Not able to take it on, let alone with the ward coverage that wasn't in his favor. So a little bit of an overreach and made to pay.
Yeah, and probably just hadn't pressed tab too recently. Oh no, he's got Trinity Force Sorcerer Shoes. I shouldn't have gone for that fight. A little bit silly. But is going to go for that Warmog's armor as his second item here. Do you think that's an intelligent choice? I mean, there is a lot of mixed damage coming through from this whole lineup. So having extra health, probably the best way to deal with it.
Yeah, I love Warmog's on the current patch. It is such a strong item, especially with the double APs coming through and all the mixed damage that comes out of Aurelia. I mean, Corki at this point of the game, until he picks up that Bloodthirster, nearly is a pseudo AP caster carry.
Yeah, he's a mage, isn't he? Pretty much.
Pretty much. So having that Warmog's going to nullify a lot of that. Means also that you don't have to invest heavily into, I guess, Randuin's Omen on top of Thormail late game. Means you can just go straight to the Thormail, pick up a Banshee's Veil, and you've got a lot of mixed defenses.
Yep, you're just pretty good at that stage. Even could go for more of Malmortius, which is what we saw going pick up last night. Terrifying item choice. That Gnar was basically unkillable during that game. Death Cap is now completed from MLXG. So no, not going to go for that Seraph's Embrace, just going to go for a Death Cap.
Yeah, and really smart use of the gold, because if you look, he's only, as there's a fight.
Yep, Assassin is actually going to find Sync Dream here. Frozen 2 going to be used on the support. They get the successful pick. That's a lot of big cooldowns.
Yeah, it certainly is, but definitely worth it at this point. Now leads to a siege in mid lane. I was going to mention that MLXG is only about 450 through that tier, so if he had enough for the Death Cap, there's no point building the Seraph right now. It doesn't scale as well. Wait until it's fully stacked up and then use that money to go straight into the Seraph's Embrace. Just skip Archangel completely, but Death Cap at this point of the game, he is absolutely petrifying.
Yeah, and you look at this jungle item, the Magus Enchantment here, and you think, oh, it's a jungle item, not going to have that many. So that's 80 AP and 20% cooldown reduction. That is a hugely gold effective item.
Yeah, it is something ridiculous, like 24% more gold effective than any of the other jungle items. Bang for buck, it is nearly one of the best items in the game. I think it rates like 4th on gold efficiency. It is an absolutely tremendous item, and the reason it's so strong, it's hard to take AP champions into the jungle, but now Nidalee's in this position. It's just a stellar item.
Yep, it's beautiful. Of course, we are hopefully going to see more Diana jungles as well coming through with that item. One of my personal favorites. Oh my goodness, please. Please, LPL. You do pick up things like support Malka. You can do it.
Yeah, so it's definitely interesting to see what will be going into the jungle in this patch. We've seen some crazy things happen, but I think jungle really is one of the best. And wow, flank coming through.
Yeah, Let Me coming in from the backside. He is going to get closed upon. There's the Frozen Tomb, and he's going to get destroyed. Sky picks up that kill. Right of the Arcane's going to take down Wushin, though, and Tail is able to assert his dominance in this fight. Nice Dark Binding. Sync Dream taking a lot of damage here. Sky trying to start this one up, but he gets stunned out. Is he going to die? The beautiful spear in the backline, but Tail picks up the kill on the tanky Nara. Assassin now trying to kite away. Liam is so low as these Arcano Pulses now starting to do the work as they're on the run. MLXG very low on mana, but a 2 for 2 in the end.
Yeah, and in the end it was Sky not being able to transform early enough into that fight that let it go for a 2 for 2. MLXG on the back line was like a sniper for the first half of that fight, picking people off repetitively, and overall, probably a win for Gamtee because they're rotating into a dragon and that big fat minion wave in the top lane that Aurelia is going to be picking up. So good flank coming out of Let Me, but this game is now getting to the point where the longer it goes, the more they scale up. The mid jungle and top for King just look fantastic.
Oh, yeah, and I think we have to credit Gamtee on that engagement, and especially the timing of Let Me's flank there, because they were aware of how much rage that Sky had, and choosing to pull the trigger exactly where they needed to in order to make that fight go their way. And I say their way, it was still a 2v2, 2 for 2, when they managed to pick up the better things at the end of it. So still very close on the rift so far between King and Gamtee. And this is what we were expecting from these teams. They match up so well together.
Yeah, this is a terrific matchup as Assassin gets a little bit caught. He's going to be able to back away, but Gamtee, oh wow.
Yeah, the Ring of Frost to come through here from Assassin. Not quite enough for the disengage with the right of the Arcane. Oh, the Sonya's Hourglass saves Assassin's life as the Soul Shackles is here. The Cataclysm, though, for the slam dunk from Danger, and Liam in a very interesting position. Let Me coming through now. He's so tanky. This Trinity Force Spectre's Cow doing so much work for him. He takes down Liam, and Sky forced to back away. A beautiful fight so far for Gamtee.
Oh, and nearly taking Sync Dream out. They're not done on the back of this one. Still want to fight.
MLXG trying to kite to the best of his ability, but there's 5 members here. Oh my gosh, MLXG just trying to solo out the jungle. A Tail, he picks up Sky and Wushin as well. MLXG now has to go on the wild goose chase through the jungle with throwing spears left, right, and center, and Gamtee, they want none of it.
A 4 for 1. What a team fight for Gamtee. I was going to mention how hard they committed to this mid game. Bloodthirster on Corki. Double blasting one coming out on their mid laner. They recognized they had maybe a 5-minute window to fight, and they wanted to get it done.
Yeah, MLXG now may be caught out just a little bit here as well. The passive doing some work going through those brushes, as Tail can't quite utilize the extra movement speed from that Trinity Force, and MLXG is just so tricksy on this kitty.
Yeah, so Gamtee get it back to probably an even playing field, because you have to remember they're up in dragons at this point. So Gamtee, they're holding on for dear life. We've mentioned how well King scale. We keep going back to that point because in an even game, you have to respect the Lissandra and Nah, but they're starting to use the parts of their compositions to force the engages and really try and get on top of this King lineup. As I said, maybe another 5-10 minute window for Gamtee to try and take this one over, or otherwise it's in King's favor.
Yeah, and just beautiful timings coming through, as you mentioned here, from Gamtee, making sure that they get the work done. That time, though, of course, having MLXG alive and having him sort of bait Gamtee into moving all around the map, they didn't manage to pick anything up after the end of that engagement.
Yeah, and they need to be careful about that. We've mentioned the nerf Baron in this patch. Maybe a position right there to rotate around and try and pick up that objective. But you're right. Winning a team fight like that and getting no objectives definitely has to play on the back of their mind. What do they do differently next time to make sure that this 504 Corki is hitting turrets?
Yeah, and Xiaohu, I love that we were just having a conversation about item efficiency, and the blasting one definitely a good option there when it comes to just wanting flat AP. Now has a needlessly large rod on top of that as well. The death cap going to be coming through very soon, and it doesn't hurt his build path at all because he wants to get that void staff straight afterwards.
Yeah, there's a tiny window here for about 300 gold where he won't have a death cap that he otherwise would.
Yeah,
but
okay.
Afterwards, Yeah, definitely doesn't hurt anything there. So there's a tiny, minuscule window there where they can make him pay for it. But after that, you're 100% right. Goes into a great item path. Void Staff is the logical item to come out there. So bang for buck, he got exactly what he needed there. And you could see it in the damage output that came through.
Yeah, and they won the team fight there as well. So Zhao, who we were complimenting his abilities earlier on, he's now on a definite comfort champion in this Xerath as well, has shown some of his best performances on this champion, and again, knows when those power spikes are as, oh, Zenith Blade just scraping the backside of that cat. Zemalex G going to dance out of the way, and GT looking to go for another fight. They know that the onus is on them to start this one up. Assassin gets torn apart immediately. Oh, frozen. Glacial Path going to come through. Not going to take it.
So they miss the window. Now Sky is in a position to engage. He's nearly got that Mega Gnar up. He's looking to poke out a little bit more. And Gamtee need to be careful here because they used a lot of their tools and didn't get much out of it at all.
Yeah, Rite of the Arcane is actually on cooldown here as well. So those exit kills from this Xerath not going to be taken. An Assassin very high on health yet again. Of course, that's what we haven't mentioned here is you were talking about the extra attack speed you get from that Primal Surge. It's also a big heal, especially when you're going flat AP, and still hasn't gone for that Seraph's Embrace or Archangels. He's gone a Void Staff now. This Nidalee is doing so much damage.
Yeah, it certainly is, respecting the MR that came through, and now the wave clear is definitely in the favor. Wow.
Oh, Frozen Tomb on top of Danger there. King looking for an assassination, but not quite managing to get there. As Danger quite tanky with that Locket of the Iron Solari. Going to have that shield available in half a second here as well. As King continue the siege. And this comp of theirs definitely does that fairly well with these spears. But is there enough coming out of the rest of the members? Of course, Boomerang Blade, but Lyssandra's pretty short range.
Yeah, it certainly is. And they really can't push in on this Corki. I thought they might have used the passive ultimate there to try and force them off. They won't even get the turret, however. They're already back now looking to engage.
Yeah, Zenith Blade coming through as Sky. He's about to transform. It's decent timing here, but they haven't broken the Banshee's Veil of Let Me, who's into the backside. The Cataclysm comes through from Danger. The Wallop not going to find anyone as here's Let Me in the back line trying to do some work. Let Me does take down Sky, and Danger, he's in so much trouble. Assassin now as well. He's going to get blown up, and Gamtee again with another beautiful fight.
Yeah, and once again, it's MLXG really leading the retreat here, trying to get any exit kill he can, but they're in trouble.
Oh my gosh. Wushin just turns around and crits Sync Dream in the face. The Flash Blade Surge from Let Me. He's found his way. He's getting the resets here as well. Wushin turns around, picks up a kill. But Tails secures it in the end, and that's an ace here for Gamtee.
Yeah, it certainly is, and they're pinging objectives this time, so able to get the 3 for the ace, but it will mean that they pick up potentially a turret in the bottom lane. No, going for Dragon instead, so valuing that Dragon as an objective. And we mentioned Xerath, we mentioned Corki. The wave clear at this point in the game coming out is so strong, and there's just not enough armor on this Gnar to be able to turret dive successfully. So King really tried to force there. They tried to use their poke to great effect, but in the end, they got turned around on, maybe overstayed after they used that Lysandra ultimate to lock someone up for no kill.
Yeah, and that was just sort of Danger soaking damage, which is what he wants to do, as here's the replay.
Yeah, so this is where they just absolutely go ham at the end of it. Let Me just dives in, picks up 2 kills and forces the issue. I love the fact that he was willing to force there, trade his life for, in the end, 3 kills, and get his team ahead. Very unselfish play coming through from the top laner.
Assassin going to be taking away this blue buff. Almost unnecessary, as he does have 40% CDR, and Lysandra very good at using that passive to not utilize too much mana, but he's going to take that one away for himself and get a little bit more of that mana regen. Can be just spamming these Qs now, as he likes.
Yeah, and now it looks like they've gone away from turrets as an objective, looking to see if they can get anything done around this Baron. Use that long-range Nidalee poke, get themselves in a position, but the scary fact is, Let Me now, 4-5-3, is in a position to maybe 1v1 the Gnar again. So no one willing to answer the split push in the bottom lane. They might just cede some objectives.
Yeah, or King might just go straight in on this Baron. There are pings coming down from GT as this Baron already down to half health. They have baited out the teleport from Let Me, who's going to cancel it and actually go back to the turret. He picks up the turret, but the Baron now getting engaged on here by King, and they're not going to have that tanky top lane. A Solar Flare not going to find its target as the Baron goes taken down solo. It's going to be secured by Sky here as Sync Dream going to get destroyed in the backside, and decisive play from King nets them a Baron Assassin, saving his own life. Here's Zonya's immediately afterwards here as well, as Tail has to turn tail and run, but he is going to pick up the kill. Liam now going down. He's turning it around. This Corki is massive, and another ace for Gamtee.
9-0 and 8. Tail is going absolutely crazy in this game. What a team fight coming out of Gamtee. They gave up the Baron. Probably a very bad decision from Let Me to cancel that teleport coming through.
Yeah.
But in the end, it didn't matter. They're going to push through, potentially pick up the first inhibitor of the game.
Yeah, and that almost forced the overcommit coming through from King, and that was so much defensive uses of abilities from Assassin here especially, and he's sort of built to kill these members of GT, and if you're using those abilities defensively, you're not doing anything for your team, and Tail was just so able to do all of the damage in that fight.
Yeah, he certainly was, and this is why we don't really see poke junglers like Nidalee, because you're not able to get in there in an extended fight like that where there is hard engage coming out of Sync Dream, is hard engage coming out of Let Me in danger, and utilize your full extent of your kit. He's just getting blown up whenever he wants to go in, and really is starting to hurt his team. Once he picks up that Archangels, he'll have that nice big shield, so that might help him out a little bit. But still, if they're not in a siege situation and they fall any further behind, he might just become redundant.
It's going to be difficult for him to try and find his way into this one, but of course, King have a plan here. They first picked this Nidalee, and I want to credit Gamtee just on their drafting here as well, because you talk about the fact that they're sort of forcing this Nidalee pick into being relatively irrelevant. And that just comes down to the champions that Gamtee have managed to pick up for their lineup, and it's working out beautifully for them, and the adaptive play to come through is fantastic to see coming through from these newer teams.
Yeah, and you've nailed it. Gamtee have adapted to this game. King are trying the same strategy over and over again. You see that they just lost the team fight around Baron, and now they're committing to a siege one more time, and the hard engage still coming through.
Yeah, that's a nice boomerang to get some damage onto Let Me as his Banshee's Veil. He's going to get popped by that wallop, but Sky is now back to that mini Narf form. Does have a little bit longer to wait before he can get into that Mega Narf, because this is 5.2 yet again, so a little bit of a nerf coming through onto that one, and this might be Gamtee's chance to do something here, as there is no rage on this Narf.
Yeah, certainly does have to stack it back up. King are now 100% relying on MLXG either hitting Xiaohu or Tail with a spear.
Yeah, but this is the hard engage yet again. Nice Ring of Frost to save Assassin, flashing out of the way of that Solar Flare would have spelled his end, but Sync Dream able to find him yet again. Another defensive Frozen Tomb actually gets a decent amount of damage down, but there's Ride of the Arcane. That's going to pick up the kill. Xiaohu with a lot of damage. The spear finds him now as MLXG is around the backside. The Cataclysm, Danger in a lot of trouble. Flags and Drags tries to get out, but Wushin picks up the kill, and Tail and Sync Dream get eliminated by that huge Nara in the backside. The heal's going to be used, but Let Me finds his way back in, and Liam now trying to help out Sky, but he's just going to donate himself to Let Me, as this Aurelia is going off this game, and Tail saunters back into the fight to finish off the ace.
Yeah, and Let Me just completely zoned MLXG out of the fight. MLXG was nowhere to be seen, probably the strongest member at this point, off to the side, and Aurelia so good at diving onto Sivers. Sivir is not a tank buster. If Aurelia is in her face, going to die 100% of the time. Throw in the fact that Xiaohu and Tail played the fight reasonably well, and it just was bad news. If we take a look at it again, fantastic hard engage. And look at MLXG. He's completely zoned out of the whole fight. He has no choice but to hit Sync Dream or Let Me. He's trying to throw spears past him, not able to get anything, then has to run upwards, and Let Me just doesn't let him get anywhere near it. Still chasing him away off screen. Completely zones him out. In the end, turns back around and cleans the fight up for his team. That's just terrific understanding of how strong Aurelia is at this point of the game.
Beautifully played, and you have to mention Sync Dream as well, getting it all started here, forcing the flash, and then more defensive use of abilities here from Assassin. Sync Dream has been brilliant, just making sure that he commits to every engagement and lands the Zenith Blades he needs to.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Leona, is when it comes to hard engage, unrivaled, has such good hard engage, but is only good at going forward. And when they're this far ahead, they can just continue to go forward like they are now.
Yeah, that's all they're doing, walking past this minion line. Gamtee, 5 members strong, heading towards this inhibitor turret. Their siege not quite as strong, but it doesn't matter if there's no turret here. And King are forced on the defensive. Nice Solar Flare is going to lock up Assassin. Now takes about 1 trillion damage from the poke from Gamtee. As the Spear not going to find its mark. MLXG, as you mentioned, struggling to find relevance.
Yeah, he's at the point of the game now where he's a fantastic poke champion, but there is just so many tools from Gamtee to be able to shut that down. I respect what he's trying to do with the build. I think he played it terrifically early game, but now his team's just not in a position to capitalize on what he's doing.
Yeah, every member of King now forced to get the hell away from this Gamtee lineup, who have really powered up in this game. I'm definitely looking at you, Tail. 11-0-11. Has another BF sword, possibly going to be going towards that Infinity Edge for his final item. Has his defensive choice here in that Banshee's Veil, and this Corki could not be any further ahead this game. It's just insane.
Yeah, but I like what Wuxian's response was to it. It was, I'm not going to go for a defensive item. I understand that he's stronger than me at the moment, but let him have that strength in defensive stats. I'm going to rely on my positioning, and I'm going to go full offense to deal with this Aurelia. Hasn't worked out so far, but you have to admire the balls of the guy to be able to pick up all the offensive items and try and deal with it.
Yeah, hopefully he goes for Essence Reaver next, yeah? Okay, maybe not the best choice, but Sivir does go through a lot of mana. I just want to see that item. I just really want to see that item.
I said you have to respect the guy. Give him the worst item build ever. As we see King, once again, trying to deal now with the super minions in the mid lane, and good split push coming through here. Aurelia, once again, nice and tanky, maybe going for that GA next, and send her to the bottom lane. Teleport back up, can deal with this Gnar, and it's much more important for King to have Gnar in the fight than it is for Aurelia to be there, because Gnar is all the hard CC that will come out of King. On the other side, however, they've just got so many tools, as Lamb's about to die.
Yep, Lamb in a lot of trouble. Solar Flare not even going to pick up the kill. It's going to be Tail picking it up with an auto attack just before that goes off. And Gamtee, they get rid of the support. Right of the Arcane going to come through here as well, as Let Me picks up Assassin. And Gamtee are finding picks all across this map. Sky, no rage, and Wuxian is in so much trouble. Let Me destroys him. I believe he's got a Blade of the Ruined King. No, it's not. I saw something launch out, and it excited me quite a lot. That is going to be the Banshee's Veil and the Randuin's Omen there on this Aurelia. 8, 5, and 6 now, as well as Gamtee. They're just going to head straight into the base. Was that a heal pop there as well? It was. Tail popping that heal just to make sure they're as healthy as they can before they take down these Nexus turrets. King, no members alive to try and help with this one, as Sky finally going to make it to Mega Gnar form. The transformation is going to happen, but it's just not enough. Lamb's right here as well. They are ignoring the turret just for now, but Zhao Hu picks up the kill onto Sky, and Gamtee with a beautiful game one against King, and just all around some fantastic play out of both teams, knowing exactly when those comps were strong.
Yeah, and you have to respect Gamtee's commitment to their mid-game comp. They went pure mid-game items, double blasting one, willing to pick up the BT over any of the other items, and overall, Tail, man, 13-0-12, 25 of 28 kill participation. He went off, and I think we have a replay to show exactly what he was doing in these team fights.
Pick any replay and it'll be Tail going off,
yeah,
let's be honest.
It certainly would be. So this is a Baron. So in this team fight, it actually looks like Gamtee makes a mistake. So if we roll this one out, the teleport comes through and then is cancelled. So teleport coming through, they back off, and he's like, okay, I'm going to stay bottom lane. And King are like, okay, we'll just do Baron then, and you don't have teleport. So he starts moving. Look how early the call comes through from Let Me, and then Sync Dream once again able to get in there, mix it up. He's on top of everyone, and whilst the Baron goes across, Tail on the backside doing so much damage. Zhao Hu with some nice ultimates, and you mentioned Assassin, he had to ult himself with no one near him. Then he pops the Zhonya's, and all the while, Zhao Hu and Tail just free-hitting the whole lineup. Let Me joins them in the end. And Gamtee completely on the same page. We complemented their map control. We complemented how they move as a unit. Now they're against a team that has a similar laning phase to them. They just blew that game apart.
Yeah, and you have to give credit to Danger here as well. He was soaking damage from 3 members while Tail was waiting for a Zhonya's to finish out of Assassin. It was fantastic. Locking them all up in that Cataclysm, there was nothing that they can do. But that game was incredibly exciting. I want to see Game 2, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to go to a quick break, but we'll be back with King versus Gamtee Game 2 very quickly.